WJG Sports. We journal great.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Just Like Brothers podcast, episode 59. Today, you know me, of course, Kai Jones. BB is there in Greenville. And, of course, today's special guest is Riverside basketball head coach Bobby Williams, as well as baseball head coach, correct?
Assistant baseball.
Assistant baseball.
Yes, sir.
All right, so thank you for joining us today. Of course, Riverside, one of the best programs out there on the, the north and eastern part of North Carolina?
Yes, sir. Kind of stuck in a little corner on your way to the Outer Banks, Elizabeth City. Appreciate you guys having me. I try to catch you guys, especially during this time, every once in a while. So appreciate what y'all do for youth, especially.
Oh yeah, thank you. All right, so Coach, let's talk about your background in basketball. How did you first get involved with basketball?
Played basketball and baseball and soccer, 3 sports in high school. Probably was a little better at the game of baseball. Kind of where I first got my start was as a student at East Carolina. One of our professors at the time, Dr. Jimmy Grimsley, great guy that did a lot for the program for years and years. He got us on at middle schools in the county to get experience and to help out, those type things. Helped out at a couple of middle schools in Pitt County. Finally, after a couple of years of that, I took one of those over during my final years as a student. So kind of started there. That was a great experience.
Right. So, how did you actually arrive at Riverside?
I began my teaching. I actually graduated from East Carolina during December, during the middle of a school year. So you're not really going to find a full-time position at that time of the year. I spent the rest of that half a year at St. Peter's Catholic School here in Greenville as a PE assistant. Assistant to PE teacher and whatnot. After I was there for a couple of weeks, the head guy, they had some difficulties, and I actually finished that year as the head PE guy there. I stayed there for one more year before I moved over to Riverside. A couple of gentlemen that I knew from East Carolina, the Jim Bob Bryant, which a lot of folks are familiar with. I was in classes with him at ECU, and he kept calling me and got me on over there. I started off at Williamston Middle. I was there for about 7 years. And my first year at the high school was actually the last year that we were Williamston, the Williamston Tigers. That was my first year as a varsity head coach, my first year teaching at the high school. And now I guess it's been, this year was our 9th year as Riverside.
Gotcha. So are you originally from Eastern North Carolina?
I grew up in a small town called Roland, North Carolina on I-95. If you've ever been down I-95, you ever seen south of the border, the little fireworks tourist trap? I grew up about a half. That's what it is, guys. That's what it is. Everybody comes in and gets their fireworks, and during July 4th, you better stay out of the way. But I grew up right inside of North Carolina. I actually went to high school at Avalon Academy, which was in Dillon, South Carolina. So I lived about a half mile on one side of the line and went to school about a mile on the other side of the line. Came to Greenville and haven't left.
Of course, I was going to
go ahead, Lachlan.
I was going to ask about your transition into coaching the game of basketball. How did that come to be, and what has that experience been like so far at Riverside?
It's been great. As I said, during those college years at ECU, I was helping with basketball at several of the middle schools. I was helping with baseball at several of the middle schools. As long as I've been in Williamston, I've also been either the head middle school coach or the head JV coach for baseball as well. I love them both. Like I said, I really do. I do feel a lot of times that in basketball, you seem to have a little bit more control. You know, you can do things to change the game. You can try different strategies and things like that. Where sometimes in the game of baseball, if that guy on the mound for the other team's a little bit better than y'all, there's not a lot you can do.
That's very true. So talk about your season that you had this year. Of course, I believe you guys made it to the second round, I believe.
Yes, sir. We made it to the second round. We were 17-10. We had a rough start. I think we lost 4 out of our first 5. One of the big things being at a 1A school is that I share 90% of my guys. I think I had 12 varsity guys to start the season this year, and 10 of them were playing football. So we practiced basketball for the first 2 weeks of basketball practice with 2 kids that were going to play varsity basketball. So there's been years we've played 4 or 5 games before we've had 4 or 5 team practices. Just depending on how the schedule works out. This year we were extremely young. I think I had 7 sophomores playing varsity basketball. Only had 2 seniors. So it was a year we knew we were gonna have to learn and we're going to grow. It was just about every day, getting better. Made it to the second round, lost to a very good Eatonton program. But we try to challenge ourselves with our schedule. I'm probably the only stupid coach in Eastern North Carolina that scheduled the number 1 1A team and the number 1 2A team and play them non-conference. That's going to hurt your schedule. That's going to hurt your record a little bit, but our goals are to be at that spot in the next couple of years. So I don't want to play anybody in the playoffs that's better than somebody we played in the regular season.
One of those sophomores was Avion Pinner, of course, one of the top 2022 prospects in North Carolina and in the Southeast. What has it been like being able to coach him, and how far do you think his potential could go? Because this kid's just special.
Without a doubt, Avion is special. We've known that, watching him come through the middle school program and things like that. Avion's about 6'5", 6'6", plays on the wing a lot for us. That's where he'll play at the next level. For us, he probably is our biggest guy, but I'm not a guy that forces him just because he's our biggest guy to go inside on the block, things of that nature. We try to spread the floor. Intelligent IQ, basketball IQ is extremely high. Very athletic. Very good shooter for his size, which that is one of the things we want him to get a little bit better at for the next level. Avion is a sophomore. So honestly, 90% of what I've done here in the last month or 2 with this time is just exchanging film and exchanging text and all of those type things with Division I coaches. You name them in the state of North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Virginia. We're waiting for June 15th. June 15th is a big day for sophomore guys that just finished their sophomore season. That's technically officially when colleges can start contacting them, is June 15th after their sophomore year. So we obviously expect things to pick up a little bit there. Avion, without a doubt, he was our conference player of the year. He was first team for the NABC All District, all these type nominations and awards from all your basketball recruiting groups and things like that. But what a lot of people don't realize is we've got 2 or 3 other guys in that class that really have a chance as well. So Jalen Williams, another guard that's an outstanding 2-sport guy. Football guy as well. Young man, Jadarius Bryant, has a chance to be one of the best shooters that's come through our program. One thing that hurt us this year is Jadarius. I think I looked earlier, and Jadarius only played in 12 of our 25 or 26 games due to an injury. So that hurt us a little bit. So got a couple talented freshmen that were on our JV program that went 19-0. You got an outstanding athlete that some people know, Javon Griffin, that Javon can get to the rack. I mean, he's known as a football guy. Right now, I think he's got 8 or 9 FCS offers on the football side, but he can play the game of basketball too.
Right. You know, when you look at it, Riverside has also always been known to, be able to produce talented athletes. What is that like to kind of be able to coach a group like that always has good athletes coming in and out?
We've had our fair share. Now, being a 1A school with right at 500 students in a small town, honestly, it kind of goes in stretches. Our first year we were Riverside. We lost in the Eastern Regionals to a great Pender program with the Martin kid, with Addison Spruill, with those guys. We had a good group those first couple of years, and then the next couple of years we were a little down. 2016, 2017. We had the Markel Freemans and the Jadakiss Bonds and the Jordan Spruills and those guys, and we went on a run again and lost in the Eastern Regional Finals to the Kinstrel Heights program, So, and then we've been okay the last couple of years, not where we want it, but I think we're on the way back. The junior rising juniors, rising sophomores, rising freshmen. Hopefully, we're back in another little stretch.
You talk about being a 1A program. I know you along with one of our favorite coaches, Coach Cobb, is very vocal about the non-traditional 1A schools. Talk a little bit about that.
I'm not sure if we've got long enough for that. That could be a separate episode in itself. I'm all about the traditional schools. I mean, we have our boundaries. We have where you've got to live to go to our school. I mean, I live in Greenville and drive to Williamston every day. And a couple of years ago, I was passing, the best player for South Creek. I was passing his house, and he's standing out waiting for the bus, and we're 4 miles from my school, but he's in their school district. Where if we're in one of these other situations, who knows, things like that. So I just don't like the idea of, we've got boundaries, where if you're a charter school or something like that, I mean, if my kids don't like me or they're not getting what they want to get, they can get in their car and ride a few miles down the road and go to a different school, Do some coaches maybe use that as an advantage? So that's kind of where we stand. I think Riverside High School in all of the sports, our volleyball traditionally loses in the 3rd or 4th round to a non-traditional school, or I guess I shouldn't say. People get upset about the words you use. I'll just say non-boundary school, I guess is what I should say. Our volleyball loses in the 3rd or 4th round every year than one of those. I've watched our girls basketball program several times over the years, the last 8 to 9 years, have one of the best teams you could put together for a small community. And what do? They get to the state finals and they lose to a non-boundary school. We've had our losses to the Chris Sauces and the Voyager Academies in the 3rd rounds. We've had our losses to Kinstrel Heights in the regional finals. That's enough on that one. How about
that? Go ahead.
Well, when you look at it, obviously there are perks also to having a traditional 1A school. How cool is it to see how a community can kind of rally together around a school and athletics?
It's unbelievable. It's amazing the support we get. I mean, I would say that even today that 85-90% of our road games we have more fans. The Williamston community in general loves their high school athletics. Yep. From the days it was the Williamston Tigers to now it's the Riverside Knights. You get the kids the middle school guys, want to be a Riverside Knight. I mean, we've got a couple special ninth graders coming in that, to be honest, some people trying to get them to move and this, that, and this and the other, but they want to be Riverside Knights. They want to come through the program. They've watched those older guys, like I said. They've watched the Ben Coxes and the Jadakiss Bonds and the Markel Freemans. They've watched those guys. Now it's their turn.
And I really feel like from going to all of these 1A atmospheres, going to schools like Riverside when they're playing Plymouth, Washington County, when North Edgecomb's playing Princeton, I see like the entire communities out there, standing room only crowds, games at Washington County. There are some great, and then of course Tarboro as well. There's just some great 1A programs, especially in this part of the state, that have incredible atmospheres and fan bases. And like you said, just like Williamston cares for their high school athletics, really 1A traditional programs truly care about their athletic programs, and the atmosphere shows how great it is to be at 1A school. No matter how big or small schools are, the atmosphere really is what makes the program. And Riverside's another example of a program that just has an incredible atmosphere and at all sports, and boys or girls sports.
Absolutely, like I said, the community support. Everybody in a small community has some type of connection to the school, things like that. I'll go back to our charter, to our non-traditional, non-boundary a while ago. I mean, once again, we're a small community. I think that's what 1A athletics is about. Why are they going to divide it? 1A is for the small communities where the non-boundaries and stuff earlier we were discussing. I mean, you got a 1A school in the middle of a downtown major city. It's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Right. And when you look at it too, the one thing I think about a lot is, when you look at these 1A schools, a lot of people say that, you can't make it to the next level at these schools. How hard is it trying to kind of fight that, narrative against 1A schools?
As we tell the guys, if you can play, they're going to find you. I mean, we have our list of, college athletes that have come through. I mean, as I said, and I think this next couple of years is going to be even more. I'm a big hometown guy. Grow where you were planted. Things of that nature. I mean, you've mentioned a couple of my guys that I'm going to have back. There's people chasing them every day, but they're not going to go anywhere different in 2 or 3 years from now, whether they play for Riverside, whether they play for a small 1A school, or they decide to go somewhere else. A lot of 1A schools and can compete with these larger schools.
Right. When you look at it too, one thing that I always our good friend Tony Bruton always talks about this a lot, is how hard it is for 1A schools, especially rural schools, to get these type of games scheduled against some of those bigger teams because they don't want to lose. How tough is scheduling, and is that kind of the reality that you guys face?
On our end, the scheduling kind of goes, like I said, maybe your talent does a little bit. All right. All of a sudden, this year, I can't find a lot of bigger schools that necessarily want to play me. I'm pretty much at a full schedule right now. I'm trying to hold off for maybe one more big event. I think another guy that you guys know, Tony, does a great job. I think another guys you'll know, Clark. I think he's probably getting ready to make an announcement in a few weeks. I think we're going to be in an event with him, play another traditional strong 1A team. But then all of a sudden, I'll just give you an example. 2 years ago, our 2017 team that lost in the regional finals dressed 9 seniors for that regional final game, started 5 seniors. First 2 guys off the bench were seniors. All of a sudden, the next year, I started getting calls from people I didn't get before that. And now those guys aren't anywhere to be found. So. It is what it is.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is what it is.
So,
But of course, you not only do you help with the varsity program at Riverside, you also are the head JV basketball coach as well.
I've been the head coach for the JV the last couple of years. The gentleman that did it for me my first couple of years actually is now our girls coach. So, but we do almost everything together, and that's the way it should be. It's our program. It's not necessarily the JV team and the varsity team. The JV team will come in after school, and if it's our turn to be first, and they'll practice for an hour and 15 minutes by their self, and we'll do their stuff. Then both groups will come together. The varsity will come in, and we'll do our program stuff, our shooting drills, and our things that are the same. We'll do that together. Then the JV team will leave, and then the varsity will stay, for their hour and 15. It's a program. They share a lot of the same space. All right, share the same locker room all the time. Travel together, all of that type stuff. Our JV program this year was 19-0. We went out and scheduled a couple 3A and 4As to get them some non-conference games to challenge them. And our varsity guys are right there behind the bench when they're playing, yelling for them and coaching them and cheering for them. And it's a program. So I like that.
Right. When you talk about, basketball and, how much is the connection kind of for you guys with the girls program as well?
What a pleasure that is to see the talent that we've had to come through. We travel together with the girls program. Most places we go, you're sharing the gym every day. For some reason we're not playing and they are. My guys are there. If we're playing and they're not playing, their girls are there. We've had a good success. I guess our last year is Williamston. The girls were in the state finals with that special crew they had. Your Katie Pascals and that crowd. We've had our Jalen Browns and our Deja Moores and obviously the Kayla Joneses. Since you've been Riverside. So we're lucky. We're lucky.
Right. And then also, too, when you talk about, I forgot what I was about to say.
Oh, no. Hey, look, it happens. It happens. If it comes back to you, just let me know. I guess I can ask him the next one. But really, with everything that's going on right now, what are your thoughts on everything that's pretty much going on in the world around us with the protests of the death of George Floyd and other countless African American deaths due to police brutality?
The first few words that come to me are obviously sad. Obviously, as being a white male, obviously embarrassed a little bit about the situation. Don't know how much you can probably figure a little bit about. My basketball program this year, there were 24 players. There were, 3 coaches and one gentleman that's kind of our director of basketball ops. And out of all of that crowd, 27, 28, 98% were African American. That's our school. That's what I'm around. I love them to death. I do anything for them. They all know that. I've tried to talk to most of them individually over the last week. They've all at least got messages and that type thing. It's a sad situation. We've got to change. Everything's got to change. We've got to learn from this. We've got to grow from this. Do I know exactly? Does anybody really know exactly what we're going to need to do? Not necessarily. What those police officers did to George, Greg, makes no sense. It really makes no sense. My father was a law enforcement officer and retired, 27 years in law enforcement. he's upset about the situation. He doesn't like it. He's embarrassed. So it's rough. I've tried to make myself available for our guys to talk to, and said one or two of those we have done that. But obviously it hurts right now too, being away from the guys. So I don't get a chance to see them face to face, which makes it a little more difficult. So we just got to get better. We got to figure it out. We got to get better. We got to grow.
I also think, I think that the COVID-19 pandemic as well has also really impacted, like you said, not being able to see your kids every day, your students, your student athletes. So what has the process been like in trying to help educate them over the last several months? Because obviously school is shut down by it as well.
Very difficult for sure. Obviously, that was the start of all this rough 2020, as we'd say. I haven't seen but two or three of my guys face to face, since the middle of March. Not being able to have your hands on them and being there with them to help them with their academics and to help them go through whatever problems they have. We're big on relationships, and every day I'm trying to build relationships with these guys. It's something that I've got to improve on for us to take the next step. I'm kind of one a lot of times, to be honest, to kind of stay to myself, but it's something that we've got to improve on. But this COVID-19 and now these beatings and things like that, it's rough. And like I said, I feel like I could do better if I was face to face. And today, if I've seen, everybody in my program today and had a chance to talk to them, and just don't have that opportunity.
Right.
Kai, go ahead.
One of the things I also wanted to ask too, this is my question earlier. How important has, guys like, Antonio, Streets.Nation, been to promoting you guys and your athletes?
Outstanding. That's been one positive. Riverside, Williamston, we kind of are not in the greatest spot location wise when it comes to the media, when it comes to the outlets and things like that. Here we are, a small town. We're not necessarily close enough to Greenville for the Daily Reflector to cover us. We're not close enough necessarily to Washington for the Washington Daily News to cover us. We're not close enough to Elizabeth City for the Daily Advance to cover us. So a lot of times that's tough. And that goes back to your recruiting stuff you mentioned earlier. For somebody to come, they've got to make a trip. So here we are, kind of in that area. Kind of funny. Street Dots is a Williamston guy. One of my first coaching, my first years at Williamston Middle, he actually played for me. So obviously, I've actually known him, known his family. His sister came through our girls program, that type thing. What a blessing that is to have him in the area. So that without a doubt helps, things of that nature. So, but we are kind of in a location that's a little bit tough.
Right. What type of player was Antonio?
He could shoot it a little bit. That, like I said, that was it. That was my first year or two. That was at the middle school level. I spent about I think 7 years at our middle school, and he might have been on maybe one of my first middle school teams there. But
yeah.
Right.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, God, I lost it again.
God, come on, man.
Yeah, I don't know. My head. Every time I keep trying to ask, it goes away.
Well, Streets and others are really like in a position here, like in Eastern North Carolina, to really promote the athletes. And, I couldn't shout out him, Trey, Kai, uh, Tony Bruton, really just everyone in this area that covers high school sports out here, and we kind of connected in a way, and we've really tried to start growing Eastern North Carolina athletics out here, and I mean I feel like this area is starting to get noticed a lot more and it's about time, really, right? Because
absolutely,
a lot of athletes get missed in this area because no one wants to come out here and recruit them. And I mean, I really feel like all of us together have tried to put kids' names out there, whether it's a football player or a girls basketball player or anyone in between. So, I really appreciate all those guys and how much they mean to the community, and I look up to them. So it's really good to have people that in the media that really care about the community like they do.
Absolutely, without a doubt. Every one of those guys, unfortunately, Tony, moved away a little bit, but he's still coming back when he can get back and putting on the middle school event and things of that nature. And Trey and Hoop Farms and those guys, without a doubt, the things that they do do help with the media situation quite a bit. Because, man, if we didn't have those guys and the things y'all do, we wouldn't have much of anything.
Right. Also, too, I mean, when you look at it, one of the things is growing up, what I always heard was coaches always read newspapers. They always kept track of whatever their players did. Now it's kind of like it's very hard to find, newspapers in a lot of different areas. There's a lot of news deserts. So for you as a coach, what has it kind of been like embracing the new age of journalism, which is people in the community telling their own stories and shooting the videos and putting together stories for people who are just like them, people in the community?
Without a doubt, obviously the social media world, has taken off. Nowadays, I mean, everything you do, somebody's filming it and promoting it and things like that, which obviously helps. Sometimes it may not help, but that's a different story. But the reading the newspapers and reading the box scores and the game stories, now if people do that with newspapers, they do that online too. I mean, how many people subscribe to a newspaper now? You just go online and read it there. In my first few years, my first year at Williamston and my first few years as Riverside, we had to say the Washington Daily News at 3/4 of our games. And, we have a local paper and Jim still does a great job with that. But I mean, that thing comes out 2 days a week, things of that nature. So it's totally changed, like you said. We try to use the social media to promote our guys. We try to use the social media to, get our schedule out there and what we've got coming up. We're getting ready in the next couple of days, basically have to use the social media to promote our awards and things of that nature. I mean, we haven't even been able to have an athletic banquet this year, so we're in the process of, getting that all together and finding a way to meet the kids and getting them awards. Social media has just had to take over.
Right. And also, too, when you look at it, we haven't talked a lot about baseball. I mean, even your baseball program, not this year, because, of course, this year was canceled, but last year, I believe, y'all went to the third round correct?
I think last year was the third round. The year before was the Eastern Finals. In my time and our time as Riverside High School, I think we've been to the Eastern Finals 3 times. Hadn't quite got over the hump. Lost in Game 3 of the Eastern Finals. I think 2 of those 3 times. Honestly, probably tradition-wise, baseball is probably the Williamston sport when it comes to tradition and kind of maybe, unfortunately, I guess I should say maybe what's loved the most. But baseball from the time it's Williamston to the time it's Riverside. But it's just like all the we're talking about going in stretches with the others, 2 years ago, we lost in the Eastern Finals to West Columbus. Well, that team graduated 8 or 9 seniors, So here you go, trying to rebuild and trying to make another run, which is a lot of times it makes it fun. Okay, because you start with that young group like I did with my rising juniors, started with them before they were freshmen, and hey, this is what we got to do now. This is where we're going to be by the time you're juniors and seniors. So,
how tough was kind of having the season canceled this year?
kind of rough. I guess at the time in baseball and varsity baseball, I think we had played 4 games. Once again, in baseball, we do the same thing. We try to play a challenging schedule. I mean, the day that the state came out and said that Friday was going to be the last day, we were at Rocky Mount playing Rocky Mount Senior. So we try to challenge our guys with the schedule with that. Year before when we were pretty good, I think at the time, one time New Bern was ranked number 1 in 4A in the state. We beat them in the Easter tournament at the time. So, but who you really feel sorry for in all this is obviously the seniors, because their careers are ending. They're just coming to a complete stop. I guess one positive out of basketball is that for 98% of us in basketball, the season was at least over. You got your teams playing in the state finals, but in baseball, softball, track and field, those boys and girls, their seasons were just starting. So it's something you can't take back.
Right.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I mean, I still, my heart really feels for them, especially, and really just for the class of 2020, considering like it's been hard to find a way for teachers to meet face to face, obviously with schools closing down, and like you said earlier about athletic banquets not being able to happen in person. So like people have had to scramble to do it virtually. And then graduations have been done in separate groups of stuff to keep the social distancing thing. It's just, I feel like it's emotionally draining for some of these kids, and it's kind of a tough situation, but I really feel it's going to make them stronger men and women going forward as they go into the real world,
Without a doubt, our like you said, our seniors, I mean, there are athletes in the springtime, they miss finishing their season. Our seniors that maybe are in the band, they miss their last competitions and concerts and things of that nature. We missed our prom, all of those type things. Graduation's not going to be the same, So obviously, number one is that the seniors have it probably the roughest, but you've also got to think about these young guys, these young boys and girls that are the freshmen and the sophomores and the juniors. They're missing time to develop. I mean, we were fairly young on the varsity baseball team. Well, those guys that are going to be our guys we need to perform next year, they played 4 games instead of 24. So that hurts in their development as well. Luckily, thank God, and that they're going to get that back. They're going to be able to pick back up at some point. But they miss time also.
Right. Talk about a little bit about how difficult 1A baseball is, because the thing I see a lot for 1A baseball, sometimes you'll have teams, some of the best teams, they're absolutely loaded with great college rosters, and then they go through a time where guys are young and they're developing, and then they get back into that time. So how fun is that, kind of watching guys develop, and then also, having to play against those teams when you are young as well?
It's pretty much the same in both of my sports, basketball and baseball. I mean, we kind of been through that already. You have your years that you're pretty doggone good, and you make a run at an Eastern Finals. If you're lucky, it takes a lot of luck to get to that state championship. And now you are developing again. Let's say our baseball team this season, I think we had 3 seniors, lost 7 or 8 last year. So, once again, but it is fun watching the kids develop. I could tell you so many stories of some young guy that was on our JV team as a freshman and didn't perform real well, or he was scrawny and couldn't hit the baseball out of the infield, and all of a sudden he gets to be a junior or senior and he's our leading hitter, or he's our best arm on the mound. So that's the part of it. It's fun. Frustrating sometimes, but it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to transition to something that you were invited to be in, that you were invited to the Coaches Association East-West All-Star Game to be the Team East head men's basketball coach. Unfortunately, because of COVID-19, that was unfortunately canceled. But what was the process like when you were able to find out that you were going to be the Team East head coach and was going to be able to coach some of the best players in North Carolina?
Without a doubt, a blessing and honor. Number one, correct you a little bit. I was going to be the assistant. I apologize. Eric Davis at Wilmington Laney was going to be the head coach this year.
Yes.
I think I first found out I was on the drive back from last year's clinic. I was on the way to drive back, and one of the board of directors called and said I'd been selected and all of that. And I mean, what an honor to be thought about enough to get that. After 10 years, sometimes I would think maybe it takes a little longer. So it's very, 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 very lucky for sure. There's all kinds of guys out there that probably deserve it more than I. But without a doubt, we thought we'd put together a very, very good East team for this year with the group we came down to. It's a nomination process. The high school coaches nominate their players.
Yep.
A lot of times during this winter, if we were not playing, I was somewhere watching somebody because I knew they were going to be nominated.
That's why I see you at every single game.
I love number one. I love the game. If there's an event going on and things like that, somebody's playing. I love the game and being around it. I go to a lot of these other events and these games. Respect for other coaches. What are they doing? How do they handle? So a lot of times, I'm just a fanatic. But obviously this year there was a little extra. And kind of even like the college guys. How do you handle situations and things like that? Are you a hothead, and how do you act? We get down to making our final few selections, which we had to do. Sometimes those things come into play. If we were lucky to have been able to play, we were going to have to be with those guys for 5 days. We were going to have to be the responsibility for those guys for 5 days. I want to be with you two guys in a motel for 5 days, and you're acting like a bunch of, So that's a little bit of that. But I love the game. Thought we had a great group. Sometimes the East-West, what a lot of people don't understand, a lot of times with that game being in the summer, a lot of times possibly some of your better players in the state sometimes can't play. They may be going to a Virginia Tech to play, or they may be going to a Georgia somewhere to play, and because of summer school and because of requirements for their new program, they're not able to be able to commit to you. Those guys selected, had to commit, and so I thought maybe honestly the COVID situation with not a lot of summer school and things like that may have helped us keep who we kept, but then obviously in the long run, didn't work out. I have been told that we'll get the honor to do it again next year. So that is, kind of like, it's bad for these guys that miss out. They won't get to do it again, and they're the most important. We weren't going to be necessarily doing a lot of coaching anyway. You put in a couple of things, you get them together, and you go enjoy the show. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I was most looking forward to from the All-Star game?
What's
what
that?
Are you looking forward to?
I was looking forward to Samaj, Justin Wright, and Keyshawn Porter being starters. Now that's what I was looking forward to. I don't know about anybody else.
I'm sure that would have been neat for those guys, that rivalry and that blood and war that went on between those two programs. Seeing them on one team, I mean, you throw in Ricky Council in there that we had.
Yeah.
Okay, and those, I mean, that's four
Highlight
guards.
reel right there. I'll tell you, he's a human highlight reel himself. I mean, and then I believe you also had Dylan Blake.
We had Dylan.
John Card, Nick Farrar.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a deadly five. Farrar.
Chris Nobles from Garner.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
It's a really. I really wish, because I didn't get to go last year because I was in Spain, so I was like I was coming back from Spain the night of the basketball game, and Kai gave me a little hell for it, but it's okay.
Yes, sir. Obviously the
Jokingly,
coaching.
of course.
That coaching clinic week is, one of my favorite times of the year. Seeing everybody and exchanging stories and telling a bunch of lies to one another and things like that. But thought we had a pretty good group. Once again, I mean, you said last year you were on the way back and didn't get to make it. I mean, like I said a while ago, the East team last year, within the last, I think, week and a half to 2 weeks before that game, lost 3 or 4 players all of a sudden that had to be necessarily replaced, and the West stuck it to us last year. So
that was the result. Yeah,
Yes.
That's right.
And people are like,
Yeah.
One of the last things to get to here is you've been to quite a lot of Final Fours. So what has that experience been like for you, and how did you find a way to every year to get there?
well, I just said a couple of seconds ago, that coaching clinic week is one of my favorite weeks to, just be around old college, things like that. But without a doubt, the best week of my year every year for the last 8 is that Final Four week.
8 straight? You've been to 8 straight finals?
I've been to 8 straight. My first one was in Atlanta. So it's been Atlanta. It's been Atlanta. It's been Dallas. It's been San Antonio. It's been Houston. It's been Phoenix. Seems like I'm Minneapolis. Last year was Minneapolis. I mainly go through that through the National Basketball Coaches Association, the NABC they call it. Being a member of that. It's the convention. The convention starts on Thursday and runs through Monday. Where with the clinic sessions on your X and O's, your ethics, your recruiting, all of that type stuff. The folks I've heard speak, whether it be Greg Popovich, whether it be Brad Stevens, whether it be Don Sherwalter. I mean, you name it in the basketball community. The clinic's awesome. The games obviously are great. The 2 semifinals and the finals. I mean, I guess Atlanta was my first one. I don't think I said Indianapolis. Indianapolis was in there. From seeing those semifinals and finals. But one of the big things to me, and I tell everybody that I talk to this about, are a lot of the other events that go on. A lot of the basketball companies, they put on their socials, they put on their private events, you go to wherever it may be and they have a surprise band there. All of a sudden you walk out and there's the Zach Brown band playing, Either Blue or something, something like that. All the cities, they do concerts downtown. They, like for Atlanta, they take off Centennial Olympic Park and they fence it off, and concerts from seeing Flo Rida to Dave Matthews to Bruce Springsteen to Jimmy Buffett. I mean, that stuff's neat. And I like to just walk the streets. I walk into one hotel and see who I see, and see some famous coach and talk basketball with him for a little while and get some pointers and go back out and walk down the street and go into the next one. It's just basketball junkie for 5 days. I kind of funny. I had the guy at the motel last year, and I check out on Tuesday morning after the morning after the national championship game. The guy working the door at the motel says, Mr. Williams, I imagine you had a good time. He says, I always saw you leaving here very early in the morning, and I always saw you coming back very late at night. He said, he says, we probably took advantage of you and made a lot of money because we know you didn't stay here very long. And I says, you got a point. I says, but I didn't come to stay in the motel room. So what a blast. I mean, I'm already on making plans for next year.
Absolutely. Kai, we got anything else?
No, I think that's it. We appreciate you for coming on, Coach Williams.
Absolutely, guys. And once again, kind of as I started, we several times, appreciate what you guys do. Love to see you around making that trip over to Martin County. Those type.
I'm coming back.
You do. We want to get you there. As I said, we'll be hopefully. We got to get you over, Kai. But I'm going to see you guys at those other events also. So. Once again, keep helping the youth of Eastern North Carolina. Keep supporting the programs, and thank you.
Coach Williams, where can they find you on social media? I know you.
If you want to be found.
If you would like to promote your social media, please do so. And you can promote Riverside as well.
Well, that's I'm kind of a combo deal. 95% of what we tweet and things like that is Riverside basketball. It's at Riverside HSBB. It's spelled out RIVERSIDEHSBB at Riverside HSBB on Twitter.
There you go, Coach Bobby Williams. Of course. WJG Sports is on all social media platforms. We got Instagram and Twitter, Facebook, and of course on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you very much for watching, and please subscribe if you haven't done so already. We're almost at 1,000 subs, getting very close. We gotta get some Martin County people to sub too. Of course, the Just Like Bruddas podcast is also on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, and other podcasting platforms. And of course, you know where to find myself and Kai Jones on social media. So without further ado, that is the Just Like Bruddas podcast, episode 59. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again next time. Peace out.